At exactly 3:17 in the morning, something unheard of happened. One of the busiest airports in the region, an airport that never truly sleeps, fell into an unnatural silence. Departure boards froze mid-update. Conveyor belts shuddered and stopped. Planes sat motionless on the tarmac as control rooms filled with flashing warning lights. Engineers rushed to their stations, certain they were dealing with a massive system failure. But there was no fire, no power outage, no cyber attack. The systems hadn't been hacked. They hadn't crashed. They had been deliberately stopped by a single action taken in a place no one was watching. And the person responsible wasn't an engineer, a supervisor, or a security chief. It was a garbage picker on the night shift. A man whose name most people at the airport didn't know. A man no one would suspect of having the power to bring an entire airport to a standstill. This airport was designed to be unstoppable. Every movement was automated. Every process backed up by multiple layers of technology. Thousands of flights passed through it every day. Millions of passengers trusted it without ever thinking about the invisible systems working beneath their feet. Systems so advanced that even a 1-second delay could ripple across countries. Engineers believed these systems were foolproof. But what they underestimated was not a machine failure. It was human awareness. The garbage picker had worked these halls for years, quietly moving through restricted corridors after midnight, emptying bins, and clearing waste that no one else wanted to see. While others relied on dashboards and data, he relied on his eyes, his ears, and his instincts. That night, he noticed something that didn't belong, something small, something easy to ignore. And in that moment, he made a decision that stunned senior engineers and forced the entire airport to shut down. This is the story of how the most overlooked worker became the most important person in the building, and why stopping everything was the only way to save it all.
The airport operated like a living organism, with thousands of interconnected systems working in perfect coordination every second of the day. Beneath the polished floors and glowing departure screens ran miles of cables, sensors, and automated pathways that controlled everything from baggage routing to waste disposal. Trash bins were not simple containers. They were part of a pressurized waste management network designed to move refuse through underground channels to sorting and disposal units far from passenger areas. Every sensor was calibrated to detect weight, heat, and movement, ensuring safety and efficiency. Engineers trusted these systems completely. They monitored them from climate-controlled rooms filled with monitors, graphs, and warning indicators. According to their screens, everything that night was normal. Nothing appeared out of place. But on the lowest service level of the terminal, far from the control rooms and passenger lounges, the garbage picker moved through his usual route. He had memorized the rhythms of the airport long ago: the hum of machines, the vibration of conveyor belts, the faint hiss of air moving through pipes. These sounds had become so familiar that even the smallest change stood out to him. As he approached one of the waste intake units near a maintenance corridor, he noticed a sharp metallic smell mixed with heat that shouldn't have been there. The intake panel was warmer than usual, and the vibration felt uneven, as if something inside was struggling to move. To most people, it would have been nothing. To him, it was wrong. He opened the access hatch and saw that a piece of discarded equipment, something thrown away earlier by a maintenance crew, had been crushed and partially jammed inside the waste channel. Sparks flickered as metal scraped against the rotating mechanism. He understood immediately what the screens upstairs did not show. If the system continued to run, the friction would intensify, heat would build, and the sealed waste tunnel running directly beneath fuel lines and electrical conduits could ignite. The protocols were clear but rarely used. In a situation like this, the entire waste network had to be shut down manually. And because that network was integrated into the airport's safety system, shutting it down would automatically trigger a chain reaction. Baggage belts would stop, security lanes would freeze, and flight operations would halt. Without hesitation, he pulled the emergency override lever. Within seconds, alarms echoed through the service corridors. Lights switched to emergency mode. Above ground, departure screens went blank, and planes were ordered to hold position. Control room engineers stared at their monitors in disbelief as system after system powered down. They launched diagnostics, suspecting a software malfunction or coordinated failure, but every test pointed back to one physical location: the waste management sector. When they arrived, expecting to find a catastrophic mechanical breakdown, they found the garbage picker standing calmly beside the open hatch. He explained what he had seen, what he had smelled, and why he acted. At first the engineers doubted him, but as they inspected the damaged mechanism and measured the rising heat levels that had been building before the shutdown, their expressions changed. The data now matched his instincts. If the system had run even 10 minutes longer, the damage would have been irreversible. In that moment, they realized the airport hadn't been stopped by carelessness, it had been saved by awareness. By the time the sun began to rise, the airport slowly came back to life. Systems rebooted one by one. Flights were rescheduled, and passengers were told there had been a temporary technical issue. Most of them would never know how close the airport had come to disaster, or that the reason for the delay was not a failure of technology, but an act of prevention. In a quiet maintenance office, engineers finalized their reports, and one name kept appearing again and again: the garbage picker who had shut everything down. There were no dramatic speeches, no press conferences, but there was a moment of collective humility. The people who designed and monitored the most advanced systems in the building had to accept a simple truth: the most valuable safeguard that night was a human being paying attention. The garbage picker returned to his routine, but he was no longer invisible. His actions led to changes in safety procedures, greater respect for frontline workers, and a renewed understanding that every role in a system matters. The airport did not come to a standstill because someone made a mistake. It stopped because someone cared enough to act before a mistake became a tragedy. And that is the real lesson of this story. Progress is not protected by technology alone, and safety does not belong only to those with titles or degrees. Sometimes, the person who saves everything is the one no one is looking at, the one listening closely, noticing small details, and having the courage to stop the world when everyone else believes it should keep moving.